definitely on paper has a good matchup facing against Charizard EX, Pidgeot EX. Just the ability to start Requiem, take that big one-hit KO when you need to is going to be very important here. And wow, 3 Fire Energy, 2 Arven, and a Pidgey for Azul in the prize cards. Meanwhile, Grant, 2 Colossus Experiment.
Yeah, a pair of powerful supporters for each of our 2 finalists. Gonna be a little awkward. Definitely a bigger deal for Grant Hayes. Colossus Experiment is so vital to Giratina's strategy. And then on Azul's side, prizing that many Fire Energy with Charizard is really, really annoying. You only need 2 to attack with your Charizard EX, and Azul is playing 7 copies of basic Fire Energy, but he needs a couple here and there to retreat, move his board around, get Mew out of the active, whatever it may be. And speaking of that Mew, he has started it as we are kicking off our final match. AzulGG going first, using Mysterious Tail, and right away that first card revealed, that powerful Battle VIP pass.
Now, this is going to be pretty great for Azul's setup going first. Not having access to Arven like these decks usually like to do by going second, finding that Battle VIP pass will definitely help out. And here we're going to see, yeah, Azul's going to notice a few Fire Energy missing a little bit.
Yeah, and this tells me that Grant Hayes won the coin flip and chose to go second. That is what you want to do in this matchup. Both decks want to go second because it is so vital for the Charizard deck to have a turn to be able to use Arven to get your board set up. And then as the Giratina player, if you make the Charizard deck go first, their setup is going to be much, much worse because they can't play Arven. And then you also give yourself the opportunity to get a turn 1 KO with Cramorant. This Battle VIP pass able to bring down a Charmander and a Pidgey. Azul is being thorough here, taking a moment to check the prize cards.
Taking a quick look at the deck. Those 4 Fire Energy are going to be vital. Like you were saying, needing to retreat the Mew in the active spot, that's usually the strategy that these Charizard decks take, where you get your first Charizard EX with Infernal Rain, get your 2 energy on that Charizard, and 1 in the active so you can retreat it. That means Azul's going to be left with 1 energy to work with until you start taking some prize cards here. Thankfully, against a deck like Lost Zone Giratina, you're able to take those prize cards pretty easily on stuff like Comfey.
Something as well that's going to be important for Azul to find a balance with is how he manages his bench, because he's got a couple of tech Pokemon in his list that are really strong into this matchup. He's got the Jirachi, which protects your benched Pokemon from taking damage from basic Pokemon's attacks that would place damage counters, so basically protecting you against Sableye. And he's also got that Manaphy, which can turn off the ability for Grant Hayes to go for a Moonlight Shuriken.
Who needs Arven when you start Battle VIP Pass 4 Sealstone Rotom V?
That's what you'd get off the Arven anyway.
And we're going to end the turn with an instant charge. Pretty good turn 1, albeit going first for Azul here. It's going to be up to Grant to see if he can cobble together a pretty good turn. You do have that path to the Peak Stadium, which is ever so important in this matchup.
A huge part of this matchup for sure. The thing for Grant is, will he be able to find a Colossus Experiment? He has no clue that 2 are in the prize cards. Is going to choose to ditch the Mirage Gate, such a powerful card, but choosing instead to hang on to the Pokegear. Has a Nest Ball in hand as well, can go get another basic Pokemon out of the deck. And he's got a few different things he can do here. We can end the turn with a Cramorant, potentially going for the Spit Innocently, and he could also end the turn with an Abyss Seeking. And with the whiff on the Pokegear not finding a supporter, I feel like Abyss Seeking is the more likely outcome.
Yeah, we do have a Nest Ball and Jet Energy in hand, so Jet Energy can bring forth that Giratina V to use that Abyss Seeking. But if you do that, you're not going to have another Comfey in play. And no access to Battle VIP Pass in this hand, at least so far for Grant Hayes here.
Has the opportunity to dig a little bit more. I believe there is a switch card in hand, so Nest Ball could bring down a Comfey here. We also could see that Radiant Greninja be worked into play. Already a Giratina V in the hand. The nice thing about using Abyss Seeking here is that you know your Giratina is not getting knocked out immediately. It's got a beefy 220 HP, and the most Azul could do next turn would be 190 with his Burning Darkness plus a Vitality Band.
Grant taking some time to make sure to check his prizes as well. We'll see a couple Colossus Experiment missing, and that is the most vital supporter in the early game for this Lost Zone Giratina deck, outside of something like a Roxanne for late game.
And the Nest Ball will yield a Comfey. A switch card in hand could lead to yet another Flower Selecting. It's going to be difficult for Grant to find a Colress. There's only 2 in the deck. Let's see if he can make it happen. The most important card in this deck. And I don't see one from these 2. It looks like a Super Odd and something else. You do have to be really mindful of those recovery cards. They are pretty vital in the late game.
Looked like Counter Catcher was the choice of that flower selecting. And here we see Jet Energy combined with Path to the Peak. So Abyss Seeking will help boost up that Lost Zone a little bit here. But those 4 cards not doing very much. You got that Radiant Greninja and Roxanne along with...
It's a Giratina V, and I think an Escape Rope. And it looks like Grant has chosen to hang on to the Giratina V and an Escape Rope for now. Losing Radiant Greninja means Azul never has to worry about putting Manaphy into play. He's probably thankful for that. And then also a Roxanne going down means Grant only has 1 more to work with. We kick things over to Azul, who's playing a level ball to start, letting him search his deck for any Pokemon with 90 HP or less, adding it to the hand. Charmander being the grab was an option to potentially get a Charmeleon, but you got to think that Charmander on the bench, he really wants to make that a Charizard this turn.
Is going to want a stadium bump or a way to get that Path to the Peak out of play. And at least with the way the hand is looking, not available right now.
It's
we'll
pretty awkward.
Have to rely off of a Mysterious Tail, finding something like Lost Vacuum.
Lost Vacuum could be nice, or getting the rare candy works as well because he has access to his V-Star power. He can use that Star Alchemy to go get a stadium. So finding the rare candy here with the Charizard already in hand, Azul is going to have the pieces to pull off the attack this turn.
Now looking through the list, there is no Escape Rope for Azul here, so no way to take a prize on something like a Comfey. We'll just have to damage that Giratina V, but it is a very good position to damage it right now with just 4 in the Lost Zone for Grant. No real avenue without a Colress's Experiment to get Mirage Gate live.
It would definitely feel a little sketchier if Grant had gotten to 6 that turn. If he had gone 2 Comfey, Abyss Seeking, plus Colress's Experiment. That would mean he only needs 1 Colress and 2 Comfeys on this following turn in order to pull the full playoff. As it stands, Azul definitely does not feel like his Charizard will be KO'd on the next turn, so he is going to go this route. Rare Candy into that Pidgeot with the powerful Quick Search ability. Using that Forest Seal Stone, that Star Alchemy V-Star power. Probably going to grab the Counter Stadium. Could be a Lost City, could be a Collapsed Stadium. Lost Vacuum is an option as well. Which do you think he's going to go with, Jeremy?
It's looking like that Lost City, but this is a card that's very good going into this matchup just because you're able to, while you do increase your opponent's Lost Zone count, you get to kind of get rid of some of those pesky Pokemon throughout the game.
Yeah, it can be nice to get rid of some one-of Pokemon like Cramorant. You know, if Grant was to Lost Zone, a Sableye, and Azul could Lost Zone the other one, that would be nice. But this matchup really just comes down to Giratinas swinging into Charizards and Charizards swinging into Giratinas. A little bit of a 2-hit KO war. Azul needing to be mindful of these energy cards. By retreating one off this Mew, he only has 1 left in the deck. He will be taking a prize card shortly, but not this turn.
And with that Forest Seal Stone, Azul was able to Pidgeot, Lost City, and Charizard, building up this board just like that.
A heck of a turn to when you're going first with this Charizard deck. This is not something you expect to pull off all that often when you go first. You don't really have as strong of a setup, but Azul was able to pull it out and hits for 180 damage. On to Grant Hayes' turn. Draw for turn is that basic water energy. Radiant Greninja would be so nice to get a little bit of extra card draw with concealed cards. Unfortunately, Grant felt like the Escape Rope and the Giratina V were better to hang on to off the Abyss Seeking.
And here we do see that Escape Rope going to push forth the Comfey, and with the way Grant's hand is, really is going to have to rely on this 1 flower selecting at least to try to find something more to do.
Debating what he wants to promote here. It looks like it will be the Mew. This becomes a pretty easy prize card for the Cramorant, so Azul must feel all right with that being a potential outcome here for Grant.
Another Path to the Peak found off this flower selecting is not going to really do much right now. Azul kind of got everything he needed already, and this is not looking like a good start for Grant here. And on paper, positive matchup.
Still no Colress's Experiment at this point. Is he going to just retreat to this other Comfey, flower selecting once more? Is he just going to pass with this Comfey active? He doesn't have a Cramorant out in his hand. He doesn't have a Colress, we know.
I think there's a argument for Grant to retreat in Abyss Seeking this turn. You get 7 in the Lost Zone. You do give up your 2 prize cards, but it would turn on your counter catchers.
It's true. And he has another Giratina V in his hand as well.
Yeah. And I think that's what Grant is debating here. Already motioned for the retreat, just deciding what to bring up here. And as long as you can get to 10 next turn, that would be the magic number.
Yeah, getting at least to 7 could mean you could counter catch or KO the Pidgeot with the combo of Mirage Gates and enough basic energy cards. And it
Wow.
looks like he is going
This is
for just that play, Jeremy. A few energy hitting the Lost Zone, though. It's always awkward to have to lose energy through things like Abyss Seeking and Chorus and not through Lost Impact.
Yeah, I think it was like boss's orders, double jet energy, grass energy. That is not a kind of abyss seeking you want to see if you are Grant or a fan of his or Giratina in general. Meanwhile, Azul just continuing on, doing Azul things. Mysterious Tail able to be used to find that rare candy and can get another Charizard, but only one fire energy left in the deck. Maybe you don't even want to use it right now.
Yeah, he also needs to bump this stadium as well if he wants to pull off the Charizard play. So it will be an Iono choosing to use the Mysterious Tail before going for the Iono. A little surprised to see that. Could have left himself the option to find. I think he's probably doing that because if he found Lost Vacuum, there's something else he would have liked to
Yeah.
have done with that hand. So I guess that makes sense. But off this draw of 6, I do not see a counter stadium.
Couple Ultra Ball and a few things to discard if you want. Azul can go ahead and grab a Charmeleon, just set up that Charmander for a potential Charizard in the future. But this has been an awkward hand, at least this turn for Azul, not able to really couple together an attack. The only real way to retreat is the one fire energy left in the deck. So looking like he's just passing the turn, and
Wow.
Grant bought himself a turn with that Abyss Seeking, but a Super Rod off the top is not going to help at all.
It's not too often that you see escape rope successfully buy you a turn, and that is exactly what happened for Grant Hayes. This could be exactly what he needs to get back in this game. He does have Mirage Gate in the hand, but he is also holding on to a bunch of energy cards. Does he have enough to go for a knockout? No, it looks like it will just be an Abyss Seeking. Didn't have a way to move this Giratina out of the active. Battle VIP Pass, an easy choice to Lost Zone, and Sableye really doesn't come up as often in this matchup as you may think.
Yeah, especially with that Jirachi from Paradox Rift, really putting a hamper into that Lost Mine plan for a lot of these Lost Zone decks. Granted, Azul doesn't have it right now, but it is very accessible to him throughout the game.
Azul was not even able to use instant charge with Rotom thanks to Path to the Peak being in play. You can see just how vital that stadium card is for Grant Hayes' strategy. Now, this Mysterious Tail being utilized, looking at the top 6 cards, trying to find any item card. It will be a level ball, once again, allowing Azul to get any Pokemon with 90 HP or less. We could see that Jirachi come out. We could see the second Charmander. We could even see the Charmeleon. Plenty of options, and it looks like Charmeleon is being eyed up to the front.
The one good news for Azul in this hand is he did draw into Arven, which will be able to search for Lost Vacuum, get that Path to the Peak out of play, and then you can start utilizing your quick searches or Infernal Rains however you want to. But again, one fire energy left in the deck. Azul's going to need to start taking some prizes to hit those fire energy for future attacks.
He's debating getting the Jirachi here, wants to respect the potential of that Sableye to come out next turn for Grant, but will ultimately land on the Charmeleon. It's so tough in these spots to know what the right play is when your opponent has so many options sitting across from you. This Charmeleon will now boost up to 90 hit points once it evolves, and that Arven can get the Lost Vacuum exactly like you said. I love the sequencing as well from Azul to go for the Mew before going for the Arven.
Yeah, just in case you hit that Lost Vacuum, you can Arven for something else, or even save your supporter, maybe play a boss's orders to damage that Giratina V-Star on the bench. But again, this has been a pretty good recovery turn for Azul here. Still going to need to get out of the active spot.
Should be able to do it. It will be a little costly. He's going to have to evolve into a Charizard to make it happen. I guess he maybe doesn't have to evolve into a Charizard. He could just quick search for the energy and then discard it by retreating. He has Super Rod in hand, so then he could Super Rod the energies back in and then immediately go for the Charizard. Also could go for the Charmeleon, like we mentioned, and just play it a little slow, try to get more value from his Infernal Rain on the next turn.
And honestly, yeah, I was thinking about maybe an attack with the Charmander, but it's the different one for sure.
Yeah, if he could have evolved the other one and, had a different Charmander, you can maybe work in the cheeky one prize KO. But as it stands, going down with this Charizard seems okay. But Grant Hayes is threatening a Star Requiem this turn if he can find a Colress's Experiments. And we do have to admit that has been the awkward thing for Grant thus far in this match. AzulGG strikes first, taking the first 2 prize cards, going up 4 to 6. Grant Hayes, how does he respond? It's just the promotion of the Giratina.
Your promotion of the Giratina, you have 10 in the Lost Zone, the Psychic Energy in hand. So with that, that is the Star Requiem V-Star power for the knockout.
He does also have Counter Catcher, so there is potentially a world where you go after the Pidgeot. The Charizard deck really starts to crumble when it doesn't have Pidgeot in play. It is vital to its strategy. So I think for Grant, going after it makes some sense. But if you can disrupt Azul, take out this Charizard, and play a Path to the Peak, it almost accomplishes the same thing. The problem is Grant is already down 2 Path. He only is playing 3 in his list.
Now, Grant does have access to the first Mirage Gate of the game, able to search for 2 basic energies, attach them to that Giratina V-Star. So now you do have the option to take the knockout on Pidgeot EX, like you were saying, but you still want to save that Star Requiem for Charizard EX.
Absolutely, yeah. Taking out a Charizard with 330 hit points without having to actually deal any damage to it, you just straight up knock it out, is absolutely very strong. This Nest Ball can fetch out potentially Cramorant. That's something that can be nice as a 1-prize attacking option to soften up the second Charizard EX. And that's usually going to be Grant's prize map in this matchup. He wants to 1-hit KO 1 Charizard, Cramorant plus Giratina another Charizard, and then Giratina a Pidgeot EX.
Important to get that Giratina V on the bench so you can get it to a V-Star as soon as possible, along with that Cramorant. We do see an Iono, so it will put Azul down to 4, but the Counter Catcher being saved for future use going to the bottom of Grant's deck.
Still no Colress's Experiment played for Grant, by the way.
Who needs one?
6 cards drawn on his side. It will just be 4 for Azul. And Grant is able to find that last Path to the Peak. An absolutely massive draw here off of the Iono. Azul limited on his Stadium Bump resources. He's already used a Lost Vacuum, already used a different counter Stadium. But Grant not choosing to go for that Star Requiem.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just hits with the Lost Impact. I wonder, did he have 10 in the Lost Zone? I'm not sure if he actually was quite there.
At least our counter
Yeah, it has it up
said
to
it was 10.
Yeah, he used Abyss Seeking 3 times, Comfey 3 times. That's 9, right?
I guess we'll get some clarification, but Azul does have the last Lost Vacuum in hand, so he will be able to get rid of that Path to the Peak and get use out of that Quick Search and potential Infernal Rains.
They want to count to the Lost Zone 4, 8, 12, 13 now. So yeah, he was at 10. Really kind of perplexing to not just go for the knockout. I guess not wanting to fuel the Charizard KO could be the play. So what Grant is going for here is he wants this Charizard to be the one that he 2-hit KOs, hits it for 280 with a Giratina, cleans it up with the Cramorant or potentially a Sableye, and then he's able to Star Requiem a next Charizard and then Lost Impact to Pidgeot.
I guess it also means your Giratina V on the bench is safe from another
That's
boss
exactly
knockout.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving that extra damage boost for that Charizard EX. Now, Azul, having bumped the path, does have access to Quick Search here.
Yeah, really fortunate for Azul. He was able to find that second Lost Vacuum, getting Path out of play, able to use Quick Search. Any one single card now added to his hand. He does have 1 energy in the deck, I believe. He had Super Rod in his hand previously with 2 in the discard pile. Maybe could have used the Super Rod. I don't think he did he?
I don't believe so.
And we see 7 cards drawn.
Yeah, Professor Research was found off the Quick Search, a great way to refuel this hand, and did find a Super Rod.
Yeah, and has Ultra Ball as well with some rare candy. So we could see a Charizard come into play now. Doesn't even need the rare candy with that Charmeleon in play as well. Super Rod can put back 1, 2 energy cards, I believe is all that is in the discard pile.
No need for that Manaphy with Radiant Greninja gone.
Ultra Ball can definitely get rid of 1 of those rare candy. Azul was also able to find the Jirachi, but he does not have a space on his bench to put it down at the moment.
And that's definitely going to be a little worrisome, especially with Sableye looming from Grant's deck. No bench space for that Jirachi. There's 50 damage left on that Charizard EX. That is enough to take a knockout on that Charizard and Charmander, but if you do that, it's going to boost that Burning Darkness up to 270. A Vitality Band will make it to 80. That's enough to take a knockout on a V-Star.
Exactly. Azul will just have to swing into this Giratina. It's going to be another 2-hit KO onto a Tina. He is just fine with that, though, in this spot. Definitely still in a solid position. Let's see what Grant Hayes is able to do. I think he finally has
Yeah.
a Colress experiment in the
Finally.
hand.
Option is, though, you definitely can play it now, but you're already past that point where you need to build up that lost zone. You're just trying to find cards now.
Exactly. Definitely what he's going to be looking for. And we do see brought to the front right there, the Sableye coming down with the Nest Ball and Mirage Gate, a card he would love to see off of this future Colress experiment. Just thinking through exactly how many outs he has available. The awkward thing is that this Giratina might be difficult to move out of the active spot.
Yep. Only playing 5 switch outs, at least with the items. 2 of them are switch cart, which you cannot use because the Giratina is not a basic Pokemon. Can also rely on something like Jet Energy, but if you do that, you're not able to attach the Psychic for the turn to Sableye. You might need to use Mirage Gate.
Colress is going to ditch a Giratina V-Star and another Giratina V. You play a 3-3 line, but you really only need a 2-2 throughout the course of the game. With this deck, though, you're going to have to Lost Zone some cards, so totally makes sense that you would still play that thicker line. And it's for this example right here, just being able to get rid of them pretty freely.
So there is a switch cart Jet Energy in hand, but you can't attach the Jet Energy and then attach the Psychic Energy to
Right.
Lost Mine. Is the 3 prizes really going to even matter, though? You can just Jet Energy the Cramorant to the active, take the knockout, and still go with your game plan of Star Requiem Charizard, and then Lost Impact, either the Pidgeot EX or Rotom V.
Yeah, can at least look with this Comfey here. Worst case scenario, you go for the Cramorant. You also could find a Mirage Gate, so you can still accelerate an energy to the Sableye. We do see that Comfey sending one more card to the Lost Zone, gets rid of an Escape Rope, and now the retreat into the Cramorant. Grant Hayes is going to tie the game up, and very importantly here, he is attacking with a single prize Pokemon, not putting a 2-prizer in harm's way.
It's going to force Azul to find a boss's orders with that quick search from Pidgeot EX, and not having to worry about Paths of the Peak anymore is going to be very beneficial here. But the one thing to note, too, just draw on the boss's orders. It's pretty good.
Yeah, you don't have to quick search for it if you're just able to find it on the top of the deck. Azul is really having to think through what he wants to try and establish here. He does have a rare candy in hand, so he could rare candy into another Charizard, but he's only got 1 fire energy in the deck. I kind of feel like as Azul, since he's already used his Super Rod, he kind of needs to take this 2-prize KO and then cross his fingers and hope to take an energy off the prizes. That might be what it comes down to.
We see the quick search here. Azul's eyeing down that Charizard EX.
Yeah, knocking out this Cramorant is not going to help Azul really much at all. I think he wants to get around it if he can.
Now, Azul does have the Collapse Stadium in hand. It's something you don't really want to play now because that will allow Grant to discard that heavily damaged Giratina V-Star on the bench. Be pretty good to play after bringing it to the active.
Yeah, try to limit Grant just a little bit. Force him maybe to discard a Comfey, most likely.
There also was a route to maybe grab that Jirachi with quick search, play the Collapse Stadium, get rid of Rotom. Just the liability that's been on the bench.
Azul is able to find a fire energy off the prizes, down to just 2 remaining now, but was not able to get another Charizard in play, and he is going to need a lot this coming turn. What Grant Hayes' play, I think, is going to be is to just attack with the Giratina into this active Charizard and Roxanne or Iono and cross your fingers that Azul does not have the rare candy Charizard pieces. He is out of Path to the Peak at this spot, so he can't slow down the Pidgeot in that way. Counter Catcher is active, so there is a world where he could bring up the Pidgeot EX. The problem there is that if he does that and takes a 2-prize KO, Azul's going to be able to knock out that Giratina in response.
Yeah, Burning Darkness definitely scales as the game goes on, and the more you take knockouts, the more Charizard is going to come back and hit even harder. Now, Grant bringing up the Sableye kind of gives away that there's not much going on in his hand. Maybe you're going to Lost Mine this turn.
Yeah, I think he must be planning to go for a Lost Mine, maybe a Counter Catcher plus Lost Mine stall strategy. Force Azul to have a energy to retreat and a boss's orders. And even if Azul has boss orders, he actually doesn't win the game instantly, right? Because Grant would not be taking prizes with this play. It
The
looks
only
like he's
problem,
thought through it, and I think has maybe found his best strategy.
the only problem is that Lost Mine does not take 2 prize cards this turn.
Sure.
Is going to have to kind of set up some KOs for the future.
I think that's what he's got to go for, though. As awkward as it may sound, he may need to go Sableye, Counter Catcher, spread some damage, try to disrupt Azul, and then next turn do the same thing all over again. Get the Sableye back if he can, and just hope to stick Azul in an awkward spot where he can't move his active Pokemon.
Now, usually I'm used to seeing these Giratina V-Star decks playing just 3 Paths to the Peak. There is 4 in Grant's list. Has he played all 4?
No, I think he has only played 3. So there is a chance another one is still hiding around in this list.
If he could find that off the top, that'd be great. Shut off that quick search. And I guess that is the reasoning why Azul held on to that collapsed stadium.
Yeah, so he does indeed have 4 Path to the Peak. That is massive, and it is for this matchup exactly, for situations like this one.
The players taking a look through each other's discards. There's been so many cards played. There's at least almost half of the, or a third of the deck in the loss zone for Grant with 16.
No Path to the Peak found off the Roxanne. He did get the Counter Catcher, so that's one piece of the puzzle he was looking for, but no path to slow down the Pidgeot.
Well, I think he had the Counter Catcher in hand prior to the Roxanne.
Regardless, now he's thinking of going for it. Could just Lost Mine as well. Azul, however, if he just gets a Lost City this turn, that's pretty good. What Azul might need to do is just... I was going to say put another Charizard in play, but that is not going to be an option. He definitely now would like to bench another Charmander, and he does find an Ultra Ball from the top. He would have to discard his whole hand, however, if he wanted to get another Charmander set up.
So Azul has a boss's orders in hand. You could quick search for the Vitality Band. Was it still available to him?
It is. Oh, it may not be, actually. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that would have been enough, right? Boss's orders, Vitality Band. Let's see if was the band in the deck? No way he would have missed that. Yeah, no Vitality Band.
Oh,
no, it was in the deck.
That would have been game.
Yeah, that would have closed it out. Grant Hayes taking a prize card last turn would mean that Burning Darkness deals 270 damage with the Vitality Band, 280. Yeah, he had Boss's orders off of that disruption from Grant. All he needed to do was quick search for the Vitality Band. As it stands, he is now trying to find a different answer.
Definitely a little bit of a misstep here, but Azul's still in a good position to try and close out this game, but needs to set up another Charizard.
Thinking of the Charmander for that exact reason. Not able to Lost City, I do not believe. Would have been nice to get rid of this Sableye. Not mandatory by any means.
And again, in Pokemon, once you start shuffling your deck from a search, that means your search is complete. Azul really debating there if this Charmander was the right grab off this quick search. But there's no going back now.
Yep, he's committed. And that's the card he has chosen. He does leave Grant with just a 3-card hand here.
Charmander hits the bench. 2 Fire Energy in the hand for Azul, so nothing much out of this quick search other than that.
And Azul is potentially going to need a lot next turn. Rare Candy into a Charizard EX.
I mean, so does Grant. Has 0 energy in play after this knockout. Has 2 Psychic in hand along with a switch card. Jet Energy.
Okay.
This is going to be a big flower selecting.
Finds a Mirage Gate, but I don't know how many energy cards are in the deck. I don't know if he has played a Super Rod yet this game. There's definitely a few in the discard pile. I guess he doesn't have Radiant Greninja in play, so not quite as many energy cards as you would be used to have made their way into the discard pile.
The thing I'm worried about is the 2 Psychic in hand.
It looks like he does have enough, though. 2 Psychic in hand, and he's got a Grass and a Water in the deck.
But do you have the Retreat?
He does have a switch card, so
okay.
He is ready to go. We got this set up to be able to take the KO on this Charizard. Can go for the Star Requiem, keep the energy on this Tina so that all he has to do is Lost Impact any single Pokemon for his final KO.
And here we see that switch card, Giratina V-Star, brought up to the active Star Requiem. Even though you have the knockout with Lost Impact, you want to save those energy in play for sure. If Azul gets another Charizard in play, it's game over anyway.
It's going to come down to this. If AzulGG is able to find Rare Candy and a Charizard, he'll be able to take the knockout on this Giratina. And if he does not, Grant Hayes can KO anything to take his final singular prize card. Counting the deck, making sure he knows exactly how many cards are available. And the flip of the V-Star marker, the Star Requiem, one single prize left for Grant Hayes. It's going to be on the top deck here for Azul. He has a Rare Candy in the hand.
Wow.
Does he have the Charizard in the deck? That is the only question. And if he does, he will be able to take this KO and win the game, moving up 1-0 in our final match.
What a close last couple of turns for both of our players there. Azul able to pull out all the stops there, finding the Rare Candy from the prize cards, and able to search for that Charizard EX, take the victory. Although I think he would have had it that last turn.
I think he may have as well. There is a chance that he kind of tunnel visioned on a different line of play. That happens to the best of players. You really get just focused on one thing that you really think you have to do, that you can miss what may seem like the more obvious strategy to win the game.
Grant did everything he could to try and set up that victory position on the board with that Giratina V-Star, but just unfortunate draws earlier in the game. Not able to find Colress's Experiment due to 2 of them being prized. There was 3 really bad Abyss Seekings from Grant's Giratina V there, and just was on the back foot basically the entire game. Able to take the knockout with a Cramorant after using Lost Impact to damage that Charizard, but Boss's orders up that Giratina V-Star, taking the knockout, put Azul down to 2.
Yeah, and I think Grant played this out super well overall. I mean, he was playing around Burning Darkness as best as he could. I guess this turn you can make an argument that maybe he shouldn't have KO'd this Charmander, because it would have turned on the ability for Azul to potentially win the game with a boss plus the Vitality Band. But as it stands, Grant still had a realistic chance. Azul was just able to get the cards he needed to close out that game 1.
This has been a close game for both of these players. Azul up this first game. Gonna be going first most likely yet again in this matchup due to the nature of both of these decks.
Trying to see if there's a basic Pokemon. Looks like Azul does find a Pidgey. And that hand looked a little awkward. We'll see exactly how things play out.
Oh, no.
That Rotom in the prizes and 4 energy card for Grant. 2 boss for Azul. It kept getting worse.
Listen, that's the Pokemon TCG. You have those prize cards, and sometimes, basically a lot of the times we've seen throughout this weekend, they definitely hurt.
But, you know, as a Pokemon player, all you can do is play with the cards you are dealt, and prizing is a mechanic of the game. You got to just work with what you have access to. It's definitely a skill to try to adapt to. And this hand really looking pretty weak for Azul. Has just an Ultra Ball, I think.
Yeah, 2 Ultra Ball, 2 Charizard, a Pidgeot EX, Charmeleon, and a Fire Energy.
And this is one of the examples of why going second with this deck is so strong. If Azul could just go Ultra Ball for Lumineon, he would have a full board set up. He'd be able to get a bunch of Charmander, a bunch of Pidgeys, and then if Rotom wasn't prized, he could instant charge to close out the turn. Of course, Rotom being prized means he's not going to be able to go for that line. As it stands, Ultra Ball probably for a Charmander. There is a world, and this does come up sometimes, where as the Charizard player, you just have to get Mew. Retreat into the Mew, go for the Mysterious Tail, and cross your fingers.
I mean, that's what we've seen a lot of the times with Gardevoir in the past, just relying on that Mysterious Tail, saying, yeah, I'm going to hit it anyway. Find that Battle VIP Pass, and then I'm all set from there. And with the way Azul's hand is, you might be forced into that, and I think Azul agrees with us.
It is basically mandatory to get a Charizard or a Charmander into play this turn, so you can try to find a turn 2 Charizard. But Azul, you know, he's not someone who's going to play by his feelings. He's going to play by the numbers, and he knows that his highest % chance to win the game involves putting this Mew into the active, going for the Mysterious Tail, and hoping to find a Battle VIP Pass to get set up.
Yeah, and with attaching to the Pidgey to retreat to the Mew, the only cards left in Azul's hand is going to be Ultra Ball, Pidgeot EX, and Charizard EX. Already had to discard 1 Charizard EX, and we knew from last game there was just 1 left in the deck to take the game.
No VIP
6 cards
pass
here,
just
no
yet.
items yet.
6th and final card, no hit at all on that Mew. He has an Ultra Ball in his hand. I don't think you can play that one.
Even just finding an item to grab to discard with the Ultra Ball so you can keep something like the Pidgeot EX, having to discard it here to find a Charmander. Maybe Luminion to grab that Professor's Research for next turn. Looks like that's exactly it.
And this is Azul playing around the path to the peak
Yeah.
on Grant's end. If Grant was to put a path to the peak in play, Azul would just be really preying on the top deck. If he at least goes and gets Professor Research here, even though he doesn't get a Charmander out this turn, he gives himself a shot to make something happen on the next.
And I guess with Grant starting that Giratina V, it's a little less likely for a big turn 1 flower selecting combo to get that Cramorant up and attacking.
Oh my, look at this hand, Jeremy. A bunch of Path, a bunch of Mirage Gate, one single Nest Ball, no switch cards, no Chorus.
There is a
Does
Jet
have the
Energy.
Jet Energy. So I think this turn is going to come down to Nest Ball for Comfey.
No, I just like Abyss Seeking
Okay,
here.
okay. Save the Nest Ball.
Yeah, you already saw Azul didn't have a Charmander
Sure.
in play. You can basically play a turn slower. Abyss Seeking, try to find Colorless Experiment or just some sort of gameplay with this hand. These 4 cards going to be pretty big, and ooh, that's not it.
We've got a scrappy game 2 here in the finals. Things not going according to plan for either of our players, but honestly, these are some of my favorite games of the Pokemon TCG. Anyone can learn how to battle VIP pass and get your best basic Pokemon in play so that you know exactly what you want to do on the next turn, but it takes real skill to navigate these scrappy positions.
Yeah, these are the games in testing where I see a lot of players just say, oh, yeah, my hand's bad. Let's move on to the next game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to test this, but this is where it comes in handy with all of that gameplay knowledge.
The draw for turn from Azul was a Charmander, one turn a little later than he would have liked, but ends up being A-okay, puts it into play, finds himself a few Battle VIP pass, once again, a turn too late. A Level Ball can find yet another Charmander, and he will still have Mysterious Tail to work with.
Does have that Artizone to bump that path to the peak for the following turn if you want.
Yeah, probably doesn't want to do it this turn,
Yeah,
right?
no. And Super Rod as well, so you could shuffle back in those Charizard EX, that Pidgeot EX, or even that Charmeleon.
Yeah, so many Pokemon already in the discard pile. Super Rod really is used in this deck most often to just put back energy cards. You use the energies to retreat, get your pivots around the board, and you need them to get your Charizards attacking. You've got 3 Charizard, you usually only need 2 throughout the course of a game. Well, Azul's already got 2 in the discard pile, so Charizard is absolutely going to have to come back with that
Yo,
Super
what
Rod.
is going on with these
Another
mysterious
whiff
tails?
off of the Mew, unable to find any single item card to add to this hand.
More like mysterious fails. I'm sorry.
I'm going to make you sit on that one for a second.
Does have a rare candy in hand, but no evolution. A rare candy Pidgeot EX would have been amazing here with that path bump in hand. It just passes the turn back to Grant, who finds a Battle VIP pass of his own.
Both of these players being just one turn later than they would normally like with that powerful card. Grant, now playing the Nest Ball, will do his first deck search. It looks like all 4 of his Colress were down at the bottom of the deck. Going to be a little while before he saw any of those pieces, but now Comfey can be added to this hand. Not sure if he had a switch card or not.
I think there was a Jet Energy that he found
Okay.
off the Abyss Seeking.
And Jet Energy is really one of the strongest switch cards because it is 2 for 1. You get to bring a Comfey to the active, and you get to retreat that energy off so you can bring something else up afterwards.
But Grant is going to have to rely heavily on this one single Comfey there, found off the Nest Ball, to be able and find something like a Colossus Experiment. It has been evading him pretty much all of these early games.
Jet Energy brings it to the active, flower selecting, looking at the top 2.
Switch cart Mirage Gate, not going to do
That
it.
is not a Colress Experiment. Are we going to see yet another Abyss Seeking? It looks like it.
Diving deeper into the Abyss is Grant Hayes here. And again, those 4 cards not doing anything for Grant.
Still no Colress. How has Grant not played a Colress? He played one at the end of the last game, right? But
Yeah.
it's only one single Colress through this entire set here in our finals.
Having to get rid of Super Rod and another Escape Rope. That's both Escape Rope gone. There's only 2 Super Rod in this list for Grant as well. So these resources are wearing thin for basically no gain from Grant Hayes here.
Really strong draw for turn from Azul was that Pidgeot EX. Needed to find something like that. Has rare candy already.
Oh, that was a perfect draw.
We know that the path to the peak can be bumped by the stadium Azul has in hand. Wisely going for the Mysterious Tail. first, before playing the Arven, still no item card, and finds Rare Candy.
Wow.
Exactly what he needed to find off this last piece. Now he can Rare Candy into the Pidgeot, has another Rare Candy in hand to get out a Charizard this turn.
And with that, basically signaling the board to fully power up once this Path to the Peak gets bumped with that Artisan in hand.
And that Artisan, let's remember as well, able to bring another Pokemon into play. So that's something else Azul will need to think about. What does he want to put down? You could try to protect your bench a little bit with a Manaphy, but with the way Grant's setup has been, Greninja doesn't feel like an immediate threat.
Yeah, honestly, I don't feel an immediate threat from anything that Grant has been doing
Yeah,
this game so
true.
far. Could just Artisan, not get anything, shuffle the deck, be fine with it, but might as well find something like that Manaphy or Jirachi.
Yeah, the Manaphy does protect against a 2-prize turn from Grant here. Would protect your Charmander that's going to be in play, and also your Mew that's going to be remaining in play. Looks like Azul will land on that being the choice, not going with the Jirachi at this point.
And there we see that Pidgeot EX from the Rare Candy. We'll able to quick search for the Charizard EX with the Rare Candy in hand. Charizard EX, or oh yeah, just get an Arven. That's even better.
Yeah, that's going to be really strong because Azul can grab Ultra Ball with this. He'll get himself the Forest Seal Stone. He can place that onto Luminion. Doesn't even need to use it right now. He's got everything he needs, so that's a thing he can put in place for safekeeping for a little later on, and then use this Ultra Ball to discard the pair of Battle VIP Pass he has, so they're just not in his deck. He knows that Grant plays disruption cards with the Iono, with the Roxanne, wants to get those out so that he doesn't have to worry about drawing into them later.
And there we go. Rare Candy, Charizard EX, Infernal Rain, doing its thing yet again. Energy on the Mew in the active, 2 energy on the Charizard EX itself. And Azul having that Forest Seal Stone for insurance for the next turn. This is looking like a pretty one-sided game so far from Azul here.
Yeah, looking really strong. Grant just unable to get set up, but even though that happened in game 1 as well, Grant was able to find a way to claw back and give himself a chance. Will he be able to do that yet again here in game number 2? It comes down to this. If he is not able to make it happen here in game number 2, Azul will be crowned the San Antonio Regional Champion. 180 damage laid onto that Giratina. The draw for turn on Grant's end. He's got a Grass Energy. He's got a Giratina. Looks like we are seeing the Artisan utilized. That is a nice piece of the Stadium card for Grant. You know, he's able to use it, even though it does belong to Azul. Can fetch out a Comfey, try to help himself get a little bit more card draw. It does not allow you to get Rule Box Pokemon, so we can't see something like Greninja come down from this.
Yeah, and just a Grass Energy draw for the turn from Grant is going to have to use that one Switch Cart in hand to be able to get anything done from this turn. And finding a Cramorant, we could even see just Switch Cart to that Comfey, Flower Selecting, retreat to the Cramorant, soften up that Charizard EX, just like we saw kind of in reverse on the first game.
Yeah, and Path to the Peak can, of course, come into play this turn, even though it won't be shutting off Burning Darkness from a Charizard. Azul doesn't really need to be pressured to go for one on this turn. It does turn off that Pidgeot's Quick Search.
But again, that Forest Seal Stone is just a quick,
of course,
get out of jail free card for Azul in response to that Path to the Peak. And yet again, Radiant Greninja not putting in any work here, going into the Lost Zone. Finding another Giratina V here.
And using the energy card to retreat this Comfey exactly as you predicted. Path to the Peak comes down. Cramorant will spit innocently, 110 damage, sets up this Charizard for a Giratina to knock it out in a future turn. Let's see what Azul can do. Doesn't have much in hand, but is able to find an Iono. And honestly, even though Grant, it doesn't feel like has done much, he has been slowly accruing cards in his hand. So you know he's got to be working with at least a little something. It might be an okay time to play that Iono.
You would think so, but honestly, with no Colress's Experiment being played, Iono just helps Grant dig further for that supporter.
And that can be okay to let Grant get a little closer if it means you're getting far enough ahead. And
True.
Azul may feel like taking out this Cramorant and having the damage laid on the Giratina on the bench, he is far enough ahead where playing the Iono is better. Sure, you don't want to help your opponent out if you're ahead a lot of the time, but you could get punished if you don't play this Iono. Grant can definitely find a Colress next turn, can pop off, knock out this Charizard, and then all of a sudden you're left with a little bit less to work with. You have to play to win the game. You can't play to not lose.
And we're going to see this Iono being played before using something like this Forest Seal Stone. You want to give yourself the most options before actually committing something that is once per game. And just like that, Azul finds a lost vacuum off this Iona to 6 along with a collapsed stadium.
Plenty of ways to try to get this path out of play. Something else he could do as well would be to use the Forest Seal Stone and then use the Collapse to get the Luminion out of play if he's worried about that being a potential liability. I don't think he's going to be too worried about it. The prizes are already lined up for Grant whether or not that Luminion is in play. He's going to be able to Giratina this Charizard, Giratina the next Charizard, and Giratina a Pidgeot EX. So the Luminion really doesn't matter too much.
6 in the lost zone for Grant. Azul finally using that Star Alchemy from that Forest Seal Stone. Able to search your deck for any card. Now here, trying to set up another Charizard, you would want to make sure you can bump the path on a turn where you can use Infernal Rain, charge up your Pokemon. And it looks like just that is going to happen. Charizard EX found off that Forest Seal Stone.
And I believe still has Quick Search, right?
Yeah, so you can bump the path to the peak with Collapse Stadium, get rid of that Luminion V like you were saying, just remove that liability on the bench for the future. And now you can quick search for Rare Candy to Charizard EX, charge it up yet again, and this is exactly where Azul wants to be.
Yeah, he is putting himself in a very, very solid position. Does want to make sure he keeps enough stadium bumps around, of course. Wants to always have a response to path if he can. He's going to take this prize card. Even though it's only one single prize, he's already got damage built up on the benched Giratina. That's an easy way to take a prize on a future turn. And then as the game goes on, his Charizard attacks are just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger.
And looking like not even choosing to get the Rare Candy and stuff to get that Charizard EX into play, just taking the knockout on the Cramorant. And I guess it is just pretty easy to do that with the way Grant has been navigating this game.
Yeah, you do risk getting Iono'd, I guess, but you probably assume that Grant really is going to need to play a Colress this turn, and that's most likely what he's going to draw anyway, since not a single one has been played up to this point. And sure enough, Grant does find a pair of them off of Azul's own Iono. 5 cards from the top to get to the Lost Zone, 3 into the hand. Looks like a Comfey and a Battle VIP pass going down, Energy Comfey, and a Tina being added. Now this flower selecting can look at the top 2. Does find a Boss's Orders. That is just a one-of card in this list for Grant Hayes, so he will choose to lose the Pokegear.
Now Grant does have another Comfey that will allow him to reach 10 in the Lost Zone. If you use that flower selecting, that will turn on stuff like Star Requiem and Lost Mine from Sableye. But here you're really hoping to find that Giratina V-Star and use a Mirage Gate to Lost Impact that Charizard EX in the active spot.
And I do think he has the Giratina V-Star. I'm not sure that I see the Mirage Gate just yet. Now he will need 2 Mirage Gates since he has already attached for the turn. 2 cards off this next flower selecting. Looks like it's the Iono, and that Psychic Energy wants to value hanging on to some level of disruption. Is he going to retreat and go for Abyss Seeking once again?
It's definitely going to be rough. You're just giving those 2 prizes to Azul, but with the way the math has worked out, if Azul just takes a knockout on a Comfey yet again, it'll be pretty easy to knock out 2 Giratina in a row.
Thinking through what exactly he needs to do to pull this game out. He is absolutely behind in this spot. But with Roxanne, with Counter Catcher, with Path to the Peak, there is always a chance to come back. Will just be a pass now back over to Azul's side of the board. Lots of cards to work with in the hand. I already see a Boss's Orders. Let's remember he did prize 2 Boss this game. Not sure if that Boss in hand was taken off of the prizes or not. But that is absolutely something we're going to need to keep track of, because that is a very vital resource to try to get around single prizers if Grant sticks too many in the active.
Yeah, the one thing Azul has to worry about is if he does take the prize on that Giratina V, it will put him in range for a Roxanne for the following turn. So you always want to try to avoid that.
Yeah, and he needs to take an odd prize at some point anyway. So it probably is best for Azul to just take out this Comfey. Don't walk into the Roxanne. And then on future turns, you just need to KO 2 Giratinas to try to close out this game.
Infernal Rain only grabs 1 Fire Energy for Azul there. Just keeping the options open for future turns. Having a couple Lost Vacuum, that Boss's Orders like you were saying, Iono, Arvin. A lot of supporters just trying to figure out what route is best.
Azul's going to need to be really careful with his energy cards, and he knows that as he only put one in play on this Charizard. He doesn't want to risk something being stuck in the active spot and then having to retreat an energy off and then it getting stuck again from a boss's orders or a counter catcher, and then Sableye just going to work on his benched Pokemon.
Quick search here is going to be able to search for any card in Azul's deck. It seems like the Jirachi is the card of choice, trying to prepare for Lost Mine here.
Can't put it in play just yet thanks to the collapsed stadium. He could use a Lost Vacuum, and he may think it's worth it at this point to put out the Jirachi, even if it does mean losing one of those path bumps. Nope, we'll hold off for now. Just takes this KO. 4 prizes left now for AzulGG. Grant Hayes having a think, trying to figure out exactly what he needs to accomplish. Azul does have just 1 boss's orders remaining in the prizes, it looks like, so 2 available to him to try to navigate the rest of this game.
So with the way the mapping works out, Azul really just needs 2 more attacks to be able to take the game down. Grant is going to start things off with a Colossus Experiment, though. Again, not finding a Mirage Gate off the top here. There was one in the Lost Zone already, but a couple basic energies, those nest balls that you just did not see early game. And this is where not able to go through your deck early really disbenefits you as the game goes long.
Nest Ball can maybe find something like Sableye here. Grant can go for that stall strategy right away. Maybe trying to get a read on the fact that Azul went for just 1 energy on his bench Charizard, recognizing, hey, my opponent might be really low on those retreating options. We've already played out 1 game. Grant might think Azul doesn't have something like that Professor Turo scenario that we see sometimes in Charizard. There might not be an escape rope we see sometimes in Charizard. And Azul's Super Rod is already down, so there's going to be a lot of strain on these energy cards coming up.
Pats of the Peak found off this flower selecting along with Switch.
Good old classic Switch from that Diamond and Pearl block. And the attachment of turn with that Psychic Energy. A few Giratina V-Star coming into play. Path to the Peak most likely coming out. And Grant Hayes can go for the counter catcher, bring up something like that Manaphy. Try to stick it active for a turn. And even if it doesn't succeed this turn, it could be really annoying for Azul if Grant goes counter catcher, Sableye spread. Counter catcher, Sableye spread. Boss, Sableye spread. Azul might actually run out of Switch cards if that's what Grant goes for.
Yeah, there's 2 energy left in the deck, 1 in hand for Azul. Those are the only energy available to work with for the rest of the game with that Super Rod already being used. Now, Grant, the way his body language is maybe not playing the counter catcher this turn, is just going to Lost Mine and let Azul take a free knockout on the Sableye.
Yeah, let's see where he puts the damage. Spreading some onto the Charizard. Looks like he's going to move things around just a little bit. Yeah, 1 single one on the Manaphy. That sets it up so that you can KO both Manaphy and Mew at some point in the future if you want. And this Charizard can be knocked out by 1 more Lost Mine.
And I think this is where Azul is going to have to use that Lost Vacuum on his own Collapse Stadium. Get that Jirachi in play while you can, and that will completely eliminate the Lost Mine factor from Grant in the future turn.
Yeah, that is becoming Grant's strategy, so Azul may need to protect his bench with a Stellar Veil from the Jirachi. Does have those Lost Vacuums, as we mentioned. Tons of cards in hand right now for AzulGG. Of course, having Pidgeot EX to work with as well. Can get anything else out of the deck that he may want. Lost Vacuum can Lost Zone, the most useless card, and hey, if you're this far ahead and you feel like you're going to be ahead for the rest of the game, Counter Catcher, as powerful as it may be, doesn't really aid you too much.
And there's that Jirachi with its Stellar Veil hitting the bench. Prevent all damage counters from being placed on your benched Pokemon by effects of attacks used by your opponent's basic Pokemon. That is one very important word in there, benched Pokemon. That means if this Charizard EX is still in the active spot, Sableye can take the knockout with another Lost Mine.
Absolutely something we could see. We could even see something along the lines of a Cramorant to try to close things out on this Charizard. So plenty of ways for Grant to try to piece together this next KO. That Jirachi, when that card got revealed, I just remember people saying, this is the end of Lost Zone. And then it became a thing of, well, how often are people actually going to include the Jirachi in their deck? And with Grant's list as well, I mean, it's a deck archetype that normally has an okay Charizard matchup anyway. So you feel like it doesn't matter too much that Jirachi could come around. But we're seeing right now in this final match, It is really working against Grant in a bad way.
Here we see the quick search from Azul, grabbing a card from the deck. Again, just trying to prep for the following turns. Azul's going to go down to 3 prize cards here.
Ooh, Lost City. You may want to just get rid of this Sableye, make it not be a threat at all. I do believe Grant lost zoned a Sableye already this game, but no, it looks like Azul's just going to be content holding on to that to be able to bump a path to the peak. Probably a bit wiser, if you ask me.
All right, Grant promoted the Comfey. That means he's going to have to dig for something with Flower Selecting here to try and put together another attack. Does have the second Sableye, though, so
was not lost zoned.
With something like a Mirage Gate, which is in hand already, we'll be able to search for a Psychic Energy and a energy to retreat the Comfey in the active spot if you need to.
So he'll get these 2 prizes. He'll have that lined up. Then Azul, with just 3 prize cards remaining, I mean, his path to victory is pretty, set in stone. It's pretty lined up. Now, what Grant can do is KO this Charizard and then hope Azul doesn't bench another Charmander. That is going to be the thing, is if Azul is going to have a hard time establishing a 3rd and final Charizard. And I actually don't even know if he has enough energy to do that. That is where things could get awkward. Grant actually may be okay here just because Azul is out of resources. He had to use the Super Rod a little earlier than he would have liked.
Yeah, well, speaking of Super Rods, Grant is also very low in resources for this game. Had to lost zone one of the Super Rods early. I'm not sure if it's still available to him in the deck, but there is just a Grass Energy left in the deck for Grant. Is going to need to find some more energy just to even use Star Requiem.
It does look like he has a Super Rod in hand, so that can be an option in a future turn. Grant thinning now by just placing another Pokemon into play, and Lost Mine will just place all those damage counters on the active, take the KO. Grant finally strikes here. Remember, he did prize a lot of energy cards this game as well. Now the draw for turn from Azul. How many energy cards are remaining? That is the question. If he has, let's see, if when Grant fans through the discard pile here, where there was 2 on that Charizard, there's 3.
So there's 2 left.
Does have 2 left. So that is just enough to power up one more Charizard.
Definitely going to come down to the wire yet again for both of these players in these last few turns of this game too. Azul does have that Charmander to bench, so threatening another Charizard on the following turn and starting things off with an Iono to disrupt.
It's only going to give Azul 3 cards to work with, but he's got everything he needs to at least attack this turn. And then he, of course, has Quick Search on the other end of this 3-card draw to help get him closer to what he needs to do on the next turn. Looks like a Charizard EX was found and a basic Fire Energy. Yep. You also could just preemptively attach this energy card to your active, or not to your active, excuse me, to your Charmander so that you can find just Rare Candy and Charizard. You don't need to bump a path to the peak if that comes into play for Grant. That's a whole other piece that Grant's going to try to go for here.
Yeah, the whole time for Azul here is just trying to get another Charizard EX in play. Meanwhile, Grant is hoping to stick a Path to the Peak and Roxanne next turn to go along with that Star Requiem. Honestly, from Giratina V-Star.
I kind of feel like Iono would be better for Grant than Roxanne in this spot because Azul is going to go get a card and then not play said card. So Azul's got something good in that hand that he's prepping for this following turn. So if Grant can find that one of Iono, I don't think he has played it just yet. I don't know for sure. We'll have to see.
I don't know for sure. Sorry.
That's what I was going for, already. But yeah, here we are. As the discard pile being checked for both players. You see it all the time from the top level competitors, making sure they're totally aware of what resources are available.
Yeah, when it gets to this point and with how much testing a lot of these players do, you pretty much know the 56 cards of everyone's lists, at least for these popular decks.
All right. Already in hand for Grant Hayes is the Roxanne and the Path to the Peak.
Okay. We need Super Rod.
I would kind of like to see him flower selecting first here, maybe try to find the Iono or potentially a Super Rod. It looks like he has just a Grass Energy in the deck. No Psychic to accelerate as well. No Psychic in hand either. They are all in the discard pile or Lost Zone.
Or the prizes.
Or the prizes. They are all the wrong places, everywhere they could possibly be except for the deck.
Now, I think Grant was playing this Mirage Gate just because it is a way to shuffle
Yep.
the deck, but so was the Roxanne.
Yeah, gonna go with that Roxanne, and now off of this draw needs to find a Super Odd and yet another Mirage Gate. He's gonna draw 6 cards and then of course have Flower selecting to work with, so he'll get to see 8 cards here, and his deck is getting very, very thin.
I think that's why I would have probably liked just Roxanne Path this turn without using the Mirage Gate. Gives you another avenue to draw into it, because you're going to need to draw into it anyway.
Draws 6 here. There's the Mirage Gate and
the Super Rod.
Super Rod. He can pull it off this turn, wisely going for Flower selecting before using the Super Rod, putting cards back into his deck. Just a couple of cards remaining there for Grant. He's also got Sableye in the discard pile. I don't know if that's going to help you at this point. I think it's going to be all on Giratina.
This is going to be a big turn for Grant here. Able to tie things up with the Star Requiem, finding the last Super Rod in the deck after it got shuffled to the bottom of the deck with Iono, and now having one of the last Mirage Gates to go along with it as well. Charging up that Giratina V-Star, able to take the knockout on Charizard EX.
This is going to be so close, Jeremy. Azul can win this turn, but he's only got 2 cards in hand right now. He needs a lot. That path to the peak in play for Grant is really annoying for Azul to try to deal with. He would be able to use that Pidgeot in most instances, but right now he just can't do it.
So Azul has an option between the Pidgeot EX or the Mew to try to dig further, but
yeah, I don't think he has the energy.
Lost
He finds the Lost Vacuum.
No way to get the Charizard, though.
He has Ultra Ball, but he doesn't have enough cards to discard. He's so close, but he does not quite have it. I don't think he can pull it off this turn. If he had found just an Arven, he could get the Rare Candy, and then Pidgeot can go get that Charizard to close the game out. Looks like we will still see the Quick Search most likely. He's already used his research this game. That would be another way he could just add a bunch of cards to his hand and dig for the potential win.
All right, so hear me out. Do you Boss's Orders the Giratina V-Star?
The one with no energy on it, yeah, that might be the play, and it might actually just work. I don't know.
There's 2 Escape Rope and the Switch gone. Those are the only switch outs outside of Jet Energy for Grant. I know there's a Jet Energy that was in the prize cards. I think he did take it.
3 in the discard pile, I think. He may have taken, I think he did take that Jet off the prize cards. Azul here thinking for just a moment. It looks like we almost got the Lost Zone in the discard pile mixed up, but our judge is staying on top of it. Azul can get any one single card here. Bossing up that Giratina may be his best play.
Basically gives you just another turn to try and draw one of the combination of Charizard EX or Rare Candy.
Azul can promote something like the Mew or Manaphy, something along those lines here. Just let that be the thing that gets KO'd. Grant doesn't have to take that knockout, and then Azul really wouldn't be able to retreat and take a KO because he just doesn't have the energy cards available to make that happen. The thing is, Grant would deck out first in that instance, so Grant really does have to KO something if Azul went for that play. We'll see what Azul tries to leave into the active. I don't think can leave Pidgeot.
Well, I think there is still the 1 Boss's Orders available to Grant in the deck, so
so he still has a chance.
Available.
Yep.
But no way to get this Giratina V-Star out of the active spot without that Jet Energy.
And he does have the Jet Energy in the hand. Does he have Boss's Orders? Grant Hayes could win this game on the following turn. Azul is going to promote just the Charmander, worried about the resources available. We see the draw from Grant. It has the Jet Energy. That is going to knock out this Charmander, and that is pretty much game. And Grant actually has the game with the Boss's Orders, bringing up Pidgeot. We're going to a Game 3 here in our final match.
This has been the 2 best finals games I have seen in a while, Chip. It is just insane the back and forth both of these players have gone through. Both of these decks seem very evenly matched, at least with just the players behind it.
This is going to be an excellent third and final game. And Jeremy, something we've got to keep in mind, only 12 minutes remaining on the clock. That was a long pair of games right there.
Yeah.
Definitely took a little while.
These players have been playing for basically an hour now, And here was that beginning of game 2. Again, Grant just unable to really find Colress's experiment until Azul Ionoed him into the first one of the game. You see that heavily damaged Giratina V sat there for basically the entire game. Sableye able to do a lot of work, take the knockout on that Charizard EX. And here we go, looking at the prize cards. Lumineon in the prize cards with 2 Fire Energy for Azul, Radiant Greninja, and a Sableye to go along in the prize cards.
Oh,
for
and Grant's turn 1 is already over. Start Giratina V, attach, and pass. And this is exactly why you want to go second in this matchup as either player, because your turn is just going to be guaranteed so much weaker if you don't have access to your powerful supporters. Azul kicking things off right away with the Level Ball, finding the Mew. He starts the Charmander. Is he going to retreat in Mysterious Tail right away to kick things off?
This hand from Azul is not that good either. Is going to have to rely off this Mysterious Tail to find a Battle VIP pass to get things going.
He does at least have that Rotom, it looks like.
No, I think there was a Rare Candy Charizard EX in hand, and Ultra Ball found here. Oh, it does have the Rotom. Okay.
Does indeed have the Rotom. Ultra Ball could get rid of, I think, Charmeleon and Boss to go get a Pidgey into play.
You got to do what you got to do. The hand is going to be pretty stacked for Azul to at least end the turn with.
I mean, you know it's pretty unlikely your opponent KOs this Mew, so you've got to have a pretty decent feeling it's going to get to stick around next turn. That'll give you a little bit of reach to try to find yet another Ultra Ball to maybe get the Pidgeot into play. He already has Rare Candy Charizard, so he's got a pretty decent setup going here. Definitely worth going out of his way to get the Pidgey.
Who needs Battle VIP Pass? Just find it.
Both of these players need a Battle VIP pass, to be honest. I think either of them would happily take one in this position. But, you know, it's definitely looking a little better for Azul with this setup.
Yeah, already having access to that Rare Candy and Charizard. If he could find a Pidgeot EX, which he does, along with an Arven.
That can get a lost vacuum.
Is insane right now.
Absolutely. Grant was holding on to that Colress's experiment and ditches the Battle VIP pass right away. Such a powerful card, just nothing he can use right now. And I don't even know if there's another basic Pokemon. Looks like there is a Giratina V. No Comfey at the moment.
Are we going to Jet Energy Abyss Seeking?
We may just do that. Path to the Peak coming out certainly feels worth it. Azul definitely in a favorable position here. We will see Grant just attach one more energy card and use that Abyss Seeking.
Now this does threaten a big knockout on the next turn with just lost impact on something like the Pidgey or the Pidgeot EX, or just get some damage on that Charizard EX. But Azul having an embarrassment of riches here. Arven finds an item, finds that Forest Seal Stone, is able to use that Star Alchemy to fetch any card he wants from the deck. Most likely going to end the turn with both of those powerful Stage 2 Pokemon in play and attacking.
Yeah, Azul is playing pretty quickly here. Definitely being mindful of the time where he can. I think it actually favors him, this game going to time, right? Based on the way we've seen these games play out. For anyone who doesn't know, since we are in Top Cut, we are in our finals, we have to have a winner. There can be no ties. So if we go to time in this third and final game, we will play out +3 turns as you normally would in a Pokemon TCG tournament match. And then after those +3 turns, whoever is ahead on prize cards will be the winner of this game and the winner of this tournament. It may not come down to it. Let's see exactly what happens here as Azul is going through the deck.
Eyes down, Super Rod or Level Ball. Azul already down a lot of energies, has 3 in play, 1 in hand. There's only 1 left in the deck, but 2 in the prize cards.
Yeah, Azul's playing pretty quickly here, and I think the playing quickly maybe caused him to missequence just a little bit. We talked about earlier him going for the Mew before the Arven in a previous turn. He did things in the opposite order here, which he normally would, you know, definitely like to go the other route.
Sometimes you just have to sacrifice that clean play to get it done in time. Here's that quick search. I think found a stadium for the potential path for next turn. And here we see that retreat. Burning Darkness, 180. Not enough to take the knockout, but enough to pressure that Giratina V for a knockout on the following turn.
Draw for turn on Grants, and he does find the Iono. I think there is maybe another Colress waiting in the hand, and finally a Nest Ball can get the first Comfey into play. He also could go for the Cramorant here. There are 4 cards in the Lost Zone now. That could be a decent option. Looks like Comfey will be the grab.
Now, Comfey in combination with a Colress's experiment is 7 in the Lost Zone, so that will trigger any Mirage Gate that are in hand, which we do see 1 in hand for Grant already. Already having the Colress's experiment too, so could see a pretty good turn here.
A good turn indeed. Grant, though, having to decide which cards he can lose from this Colress experiment. There's a Tina V-Star and a Tina V. His one of boss's orders he feels like he needs to hang on to for sure. I think he would love to keep this nest ball around, but those other cards are just a little bit too much, carry a little bit too much value compared to those.
Another Giratina V on the bench. You have Jet Energy. You can use that to bring up the Comfey if you would like. You can switch card, heal a little bit. That damage isn't going to matter, but be able to get that Comfey in the active spot. Flower selecting will get you to the 7 that you need for Mirage Gate.
He was able to find another Colress. Does have to lose an escape rope in order to go for it. And he has gotten to 7. There is the Mirage Gate, not 10, so he will not be able to pull off the Star Alchemy, or not the Star Alchemy, that the Star Requiem, excuse me, from the Giratina V-Star. Not quite able to pull all of that off. Didn't get everything he needed, but still setting up for future turns. Has even another Mirage Gate to go with here.
Honestly, you might as well play it now. You can get those energy in play, but it is going to be risky. It lowers your options for the following turns, but with time dwindling down, who knows how many of those you're going to have.
Spreading a few energies out. One water to the Giratina V-Star, one grass to the Giratina V. Comfey in the active. Only 5 minutes remain in this final match. We see a Sableye potentially coming down. A Jet Energy still can be utilized, and it looks like Lost Impact is going to just hit this Charizard really hard, and Grant will try to clean it up in future turns.
And with those 2 energy going to the Lost Zone, that means just one more Flower selecting or Colress Experiment will be able to hit that 10 number for Star Requiem. No Path to the Peak, though, so Azul is going to have free reign with this quick search to try and set up something like another Charizard is going to be needed for this turn, but I think grabbed an Iono.
Yeah, has a Charmander in hand. He can put that down pretty freely. There's the Jirachi as well to protect the Charmander and all other Pokemon on his bench, and Iono will be utilized. Both players shuffling their hands to the bottom of the deck, and since we have no prize cards taken yet, each will draw 6. Both playing pretty quickly here, and Azul will just Burning Darkness, 180 damage laid onto this Giratina.
This is going to be big. We knew the boss's orders was in hand for Grant the previous turn, but got shuffled to the bottom with Iono. That would have been really good to bring up that Pidgeot EX and Lost Impact or Star Requiem it.
And the thing about Giratina V-Star is that it is an evolution Pokemon. You cannot use Switch Cart to move it to the bench, so Grant Hayes is forced to discard these energy cards to get it out of the active spot. Cramorant can come in and clean up this Charizard, and Path to the Peak is a really strong find.
There is an Arven in Azul's hand, though, so he brought it directly to the top to try and find that Lost Vacuum in the deck.
These players are playing very, very quickly. Grant is going to take this KO. He'll take the first knockout. For the first time in this match, he'll be the one who is ahead on prize cards in these games. Azul, quick to promote that Pidgeot, does have the option to go for the Blustery Wind. That is something you can see from time to time. Deals 120 damage and discards a Stadium card in play. The problem with that is that you're putting your Pidgeot in harm's way. It is one of your most important cards.
Yep. Lost Vacuum, utilizing that tool grabbed from Arven to get rid of it. Gets rid of that Path to the Peak. Here's the Super Rod shuffling back 3 Fire Energy. That's something that Azul desperately needed to recharge. Has the Ultra Ball, discarding Arven Rare Candy. Will be able to search for Charizard EX, grab another couple Fire Energies from the deck, and you have your attacker now. And I still believe Quick Search is available to him. You can go ahead and grab Counter Catcher, and that's the first time it's actually going to be used in this match for Azul.
And with so much damage on these Giratina, you're set up to where this Pidgeot actually could clean up one of them as a KO, and actually will just knock out the active. This does leave an opening for Grant Hayes to Lost Impact this for a knockout.
This is getting down to the wire for sure. Flower selecting, Comfey, Jet Energy. I think you keep the Jet Energy here. You don't need the extra Comfey, but already having one in hand, now you have 3 available to you.
Being able to put that down, just wants to draw through the deck a little bit more. It looks like a Pokegear is waiting in the hand as well. Switch cart can help him dig a little bit more. That tells me he needs something else this turn. May need the Giratina V-Star in order to attack with this benched Pokemon. Flower selecting doesn't find it. There's another Mirage Gate, however. He can power up the other Giratina V-Star that's already got so much damage on it.
Yeah, has Super Rod in hand already.
Definitely not ideal, but you got to do what you got to do.
Honestly, it kind of seems ideal to me. You charge up that Giratina V-Star, take the knockout on Pidgeot. Azul can come up and take the knockout, but then you have the Giratina V on the bench with those 2 energy. All you need is a V-Star to clean up.
Yeah, and it might be just fine for Grant as long as he can find that Giratina. That is going to be the issue potentially for him, as Azul will be able to be the one being aggressive with those disruption cards. Super Rod now being played from Grant, putting back 2 energy cards. That Mirage Gate waiting in the hand. Jet Energy will be able to bring the Giratina V-Star up to the active spot, and we are going to see the Lost Impact take the KO. And I think this is why Azul was fine attacking with the Pidgeot, is because he knows he wants to go for an Iono.
Iono already in hand for Azul here. Jet Energy in hand for Grant will allow that Giratina V-Star to be brought up and take the knockout with Lost Impact.
It's really going to come down to
40 seconds left.
Yeah, it's coming down to the wire here. Time may not end up being as big of a factor as we would have thought. This game might just finish in those +3 turns naturally. 30 seconds left on the clock. Grant Hayes playing a Colress, looking at the top 5, adding 3 to hand, lost zoning 2 energy cards, a pretty steep cost, but has just about everything lined up that he needs to close out the game.
Third Comfey on the bench. There's that Jet Energy bringing up Giratina V-Star, able to take the knockout with Lost Impact. I'd love to see the energy from the active get removed, or maybe one of the Jet Energy and then the Jet Energy on the bench, Giratina V.
And this is coming down to it. 1 second left. We'll see who is going to be turn 0, and that is really unfortunate for Grant Hayes. He is turn 0 right now. So even though he was just about to finish his turn, that he's done everything. You know, he's going to be that turn 0, so that means Azul will have turn 1 and turn 3. Grant Hayes will only have turn 2. He may just be able to win the game naturally. We'll see exactly how things play out. Azul promoting the Charizard, draws for turn, has that Iono, and all Grant Hayes is going to need off the Iono is 1 Giratina V-Star. If he can find a Giratina V-Star, Grant Hayes will be a regional champion. 2 cards from the top of the deck coming his way. Azul drawing 5 on his end.
The biggest Iono of Grant's life here.
Is he going to look at it? That is the question. 1 card, 2, no
nothing.
Giratina, not
Does
just
have an
yet.
energy to retreat a Comfey, so you can have access to at least 1 flower selecting on the next turn.
And Azul's prize map is pretty decently set up. He'll take out a Giratina, take out another Giratina, and then try to KO a Comfey, and he can set himself up. I mean, he doesn't actually even need to take all 6 prize cards to close this game out. He's got 2 bosses orders, so he's got the play lined up to try to take out this Giratina. He goes to 3 prizes. Next turn, if Grant doesn't hit, then Grant can't win. He'll pass the turn, and Azul will have bosses orders to bring up the other damaged Giratina. Go down to just 1 prize card remaining. It'll be the end of turn 3, and Azul will win this game and become a regional champion once again.
All right, you got to see this Comfey promoted to the active spot. You already have the energy, and just need to find 1 last Giratina V-Star to be able to take down this regional championship.
I believe 1 Giratina V-Star was lost zoned earlier on in this game as Grant was playing quickly. Needs to find it here. Draws. It's a Roxanne. That's pretty good. Attach return to the Comfey. Play the Roxanne. I guess it depends on the order of your deck. You know, you did just Iono a bunch of cards. There might be a world where you flower selecting first, but no, it's going to be Roxanne. 6 cards to come for Grant Hayes, and then 2 more from the flower selecting. 1 single card remaining in his deck instantly wins him the game. Otherwise, AzulGG is going to be relying on finding bosses orders to close it out on his end.
I'm on the edge of my seat, Chip. This is either Grant's first ever regional win or Azul's 6th regional win on the line here. And of course, couple $3,000 difference between these players.
Big
6
difference.
cards.
No Giratina just yet, but does find a switch. He's going to be able to dig pretty deep using that nest ball. We'll be able to thin 1 more card. The Giratina's the bottom card of the deck, but wisely playing this nest ball will thin 1 more card out, and luckily for Grant as well, shuffle this deck. Having a thing.
Has a switch in hand as well.
Yes, yes. So that's 1 more way to look. He can look at the top 4 cards effectively here.
7 cards in the deck, Chip.
Pretty decent odds that he would get there over 50% of the time. Grant is going to win the game on the spot. And Azul in these positions,
$3,000 judge shuffle here.
He always requests, whenever it comes down to the wire, Azul always requests a judge shuffle. A judge shuffle is final. Neither player can cut or shuffle it themselves. Flower selecting does not find the Tina. He's got the retreat, and then he's got the switch. One more chance, and Grant can win it. 5 cards in deck. If
it does
either
not
of the top
come
2,
closer than this, Chip.
he's trying to see if there's any way he can increase his odds any further. I think worst case scenario, he does have counter catcher, so he could use that to try to buy a turn, because if he doesn't win this turn and then counter catcher something on Azul's end.
How can you counter catch? You're in the lead.
Oh, you are in the lead. Yes, that's right. So it's not going to work out. That's where he's been most of this set, but right now he's the one being the aggressor, just needing 2 more prize cards to close things out.
How good was that judge shuffle for Azul here?
It could be the $3,000 judge shuffle. Grant, I think, is just making sure he's aware of how the time rules work in this spot.
All right, you're going to have to retreat this active and then use the switch to finally get that Giratina V into the active spot.
Yep, here it is. 2 more cards from the top. Is there the Giratina? No! I didn't see it. No Giratina. It's in the bottom 3 cards of the deck.
Insane.
Grant Hayes not able to close it out this turn. He can't believe it. Can't play the counter catcher. He and I were on the same wavelength. Yeah. Can't quite do it. And all he's going to have to do is pass the turn. Now, the lucky thing for Grant here is he doesn't instantly lose.
Right,
but
where's the boss's
Azul
orders?
just needs boss
in the hand! Azul has it, and there you have it!
Brings up that Giratina, and AzulGG will be ahead on prize cards at the end of turn 3, and he becomes a 6-time regional champion here in San Antonio.
What a way to finish it off, Chip. Azul hitting that 6th regional win mark, now tying Ryan Sablehouse for that many, just under Michael Pramwat. And wow, all 3 of those games coming down to the very last turn.
And honestly, you've got to feel for Grant in that spot. He had such a real chance. He saw so many cards in that last turn. 6 from the Roxanne, 4 from a pair of Comfeys, and just was not able to get there, not able to find that final Giratina to win the game. And Azul becomes a 6-time regional champion.
Azul better shake that judge's hand for sure. What a shuffle. Oh, my.
Oh, man. And that's why Azul does it. You know, he just doesn't want to put it in his own hands. He wants it, you know, if he's going to win or lose, regardless of how it is, he doesn't want it to be him being the last one to have touched the deck.
That is one of the greatest finals I have watched in a while, Chip. And to have Azul, one of the best, most consistent players we've had ever, be able to take it out. Wow.
Top 8, and now a win to kick the season off. Let's remember as well, coming off a top 4 finish at Worlds, Azul's performance these last few months has been nothing short of incredible. Grant Hayes was able to fight decently in this first game, tied things up with that Cramorant's KO. Ultimately, though, it was AzulGG able to come out on top.
There was that boss's orders bringing up Giratina V-Star, taking the knockout, going down to 2 prize cards, and just leaving Grant with not much to work with, having the Lost Mine, the active for 5, taking the KO on the Charmander, but Azul had the win here with that boss's orders Vitality Band, but opted to play it a little more slow.
Didn't quite pull it off. We do see that Giratina was able to take the KO, put Grant down to just 1 prize, but Azul ultimately able to close it out on the following turn. Azul was able to strike first in game number 2 once again, and things looked really solid for him, but a few awkward discards early really came back to bite him in the end game. He had to use his Super Rod way earlier than he would have liked, and his energy management just, felt like things didn't really pan out the way he would have liked them.
Yeah, and also just the prizes have not been kind to Azul for this top cut, really. Prizing a lot of energy and means just a lot of pressure on that Super Rod to find it when you need it. And here, just the Sableye taking the KO on the Charizard proved really helpful for Grant, then able to cobble together a Star Requiem and finish off the game with a Lost Impact.
And you got to feel bad for Grant too, because if it wasn't for the top cut rules, or if he had finished his turn 0 just a little bit faster, he could have come out on top in game number 3. Azul had 1 prize left. Grant still had 1 more turn to find the KO with a Giratina V-Star.
It was such a close first and second game. Who would have thought this game 3 would have come down to pretty much the same? Azul using that Pidgeot EX to take the knockout, but it left him without the ability to quick search on this last couple of turns. And Grant, having lost zone that Giratina V-Star early, not able to find the last one in this last turn, just passing the turn, but Azul had that boss's orders off the Roxanne, bringing up that Giratina V, taking the knockout, and just like that, Azul is your San Antonio regional champion.